so that we can share this later with folks. And with that, I'm gonna hand this off to my colleague, Erin Stromgren, who is our exhibitions manager at the American Swedish Institute. And Erin also has a background in design and has done some making herself and has studied design in Sweden. So we're really excited to have her here today because her specialty is kind of working with interactive and playful exhibitions. And we are so lucky to have her on staff. So she's going to be leading us through the conversations with all of the different artists in this panel. This is one of 4 panels today for our Julmarknad day virtually, and we are sad to not be in person with you all at ASI's campus this year, but it's fun to be able to meet the artists in their homes and see where they work, and we are really looking forward to hearing from everybody individually. It's the sort of thing that you get to have these conversations when you're in person, and we don't always get to do that when we're in this sort of virtual shopping realm. So we'll be adding the links to all of the artists' shops and social media accounts into the chat as we go, so you can check them out before or during the event as we're working. And then we also will be inviting you to go back to asimn.org/Julmarknad to check out all of their stores, to do some shopping later. This is a time of year that we really have a chance to support all of our artists in doing your holiday shopping. So we hope that you take a look and get some inspiration for that as well. So that, I'm going to hand it off to Erin.
Thanks, Erin. As she said, I'm Erin Stromgren, exhibitions manager here at ASI. And a motto that drives me in design and working with exhibitions has always been, make it useful, make it fun. So I'm really excited to be part of this session today with these 8 artists who all seem to incorporate a sense of play, fun, or adventure into their individual crafts, be it through their process, through their material, or the end use. So we will get right into it, and I'm going to introduce Cecilia first. She's an artisan of wood-crafted automata, puzzles, and more. And ASI had the privilege to work with Cecilia back in 2018 in an exhibition called Whimsy and Wonder. To you, Cecilia.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I'm really happy to be here. This is my 3rd Julmarknad, and of course my first virtual Julmarknad. And I make interactive mechanical sculptures that are also called automata or automata, pronounced all different kinds of way. And I work mostly in wood, and so I carve the figures and I cut all the gears out of wood, and I put everything together. I really find gears fascinating. I love to watch gears, and so I leave my gears visible. Instead of hiding them away in a compartment or something, they become part of the piece. So I have a couple things here to show you. So I think the best way to understand automata is to actually see how they work. So I'm going to turn this a little bit. This piece right here behind me, this is called Rowing Across the Big Lake. It was inspired from my my teaching at North House Folk School. So I'll just show you that here. So the boat was actually made, I kind of modeled it after boats that are on Lake Superior, that are on the shoreline at North House. And I made them in the same way that I've seen boats being made at North House. And so this year, for the first time, I got a grant from the Minnesota, the State Arts Board. And I designed and produced some do-it-yourself kits, some automata kits. And I have 4 models, and here in the colorful packaging behind me, those are the packaged pieces. There's no plastic parts or packaging involved. They're all laser cut gears. So I have some different models here. Let's see. This one here is called Oh Dear. I think it's my favorite. It's a little deer that just runs across the field. And this one here is called Love Flies Across the Sea. And if you can see, there's a little heart with wings on it. And Goofy Bird. So this one here is painted. They come in the Baltic birch that you can just snap together. And additionally, I have some of my original pieces. So this one here is a wall hanging piece. It's that one's called Winter Twilight. And so in the background, here's some of the original laser cut puzzles. They're all hand painted, and some other handcrafted wood items that I've made. So, oh, and I forgot, in the background, there's also some original laser cut ornaments. So that's, I mean, there's more too. If you go to my website, you can see some other things. But,
Love it. Thank you, Cecilia. And those kits really look like a fun activity for all generations.
Yeah,
to do together.
Yeah, there's kind of a range of difficulty there, but I think they're a great STEAM project for kids and for adults. As you said, I think anybody can enjoy doing them.
Great activity to do at home. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Jen of Traveling Tomten, and with whimsical felted tomtas for display or play. And it sounds like you had a very 2020 appropriate mask wearing tomta that was very popular this year.
I did. I took my typical ornament collection and I expanded it by adding masks. 2 little Vikings and Tomtens, and of course, Dala. And then, and Julmarknad as well. I also, at the request of a friend, decided to have an exceptionally 2020 ornament and made a dumpster fire for a little bit of silliness for your holiday tree. Well, I am thrilled to be here because I actually got my start doing this at ASI 9 years ago this month. When my son was in preschool, they read the book, The Tomten by Astrid Lindgren. And so I took my son and a friend on the Tomte tour. And when it was done, he wanted his very own Tomten. And that was, 9 years ago, and they weren't as prolific as they are now. And they were much more expensive, but they were very decor based, definitely not friendly for a 4-year-old. And so I decided that I would make a soft one that he could hold using needle felting techniques. So I made one for him, and I made one for his friends, and then I made some for his preschool class, and then it just expanded into where we are today. What I love about needle felting is that it starts out with just really basic tools, just a mat, and then I use a series of different individual specialized needles that grasp the wool and twist it together. So it's really pretty magical. I can just take these blobs of wool, and by wrapping and rolling and shaping, a whole lot of poking with these tiny little needles, I can then turn it into a general tomte shape and then keep on going and add more detail. And I think that it's really magical that in a couple hours, this can turn into this using natural materials. I love to get my inspiration from everyday life. Last summer, I made a little coffee Tomten that was actually inspired by a mug that I got at Julmarknad 3 years ago from Kilden, Flanders. We have a lot of bees in our backyard, so I made a little bee fairy and all kinds of different things. Just being inspired by what I see in the world, by what my kids are interested in, by what my friends like, and hence then the, of course, masked Tomtens of 2020.
Love it. It's a fun process and a fun result. And I think we all need a dumpster on fire for our trees this year. Thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you.
Next, we have Sherry of Ahmad Playhouse with creative handmade wooden and cloth toys with a Northwoods spin made for creative play.
Hello.
Welcome. Hi.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here too. I do make toys, and so most of my business is both fun and playful and adventure. I started making playhouse building kits, and my items have kind of expanded to be more adventure toys. I have all of my toys are wood and cloth. So I do a lot of my process in my wood shop. I do a lot of it up here sewing. So I do a little bit of both. I have a kind of a vintage VW bus, which has a removable lid, and then can pull a camper behind it or a trailer. I have little pickup trucks, sailboats, and of course my little finger puppets, which were actually started and inspired from my kids' drawings. So my kids started doing some of the characters, and then I print them out onto fabric and make finger puppets. And I can also do custom puppets, either from kids' drawings or from photos. So to create truly their own one-of-a-kind adventure, kids can make characters out of themselves or their family members, and then they can have a van with a canoe and a trailer and mini sleeping bags, and then they can go camping with their family and kind of create their own story. So it's all about really adventure playing, and kids creating their own stories, and then using eco-friendly materials and solid wood toys.
I love that you incorporate children into your process as well, because you know they are the experts in play and having such open-ended toys that they can really create their own story in playtime. So
my children are my designers and testers, so they give me lots of feedback on the products and lots of inspiration for sure.
And you have a great quote on your website by George Bernard Shaw that we don't stop playing because we grow old. We grow old because we stop playing.
Yeah, okay. And I get to play every day, so.
Love it. Thank you so much, Sherry. Next up, we have Deanne of Eventyr, Swedish word for adventure, with handcrafted lifestyle bags for the urban adventure. Deanne?
Hey everybody, I'm Deanne and I'm here in my North Minneapolis home studio, and I make small batch bicycle bags here. And this is my second virtual event of the day. I'm an avid cyclist and I already took my virtual cycling class this morning at 8 a.m. So this isn't the only virtual thing happening today, but the most important one. Aventyr was started in 2017 by my husband Kurt and I was unable to find a bicycle bag I liked when we were going on bike dates. We go out to eat, we go to the theater, we go out to tap rooms, and I couldn't find anything that met my aesthetic. My main design influences are Nordic and Japanese design. And so that was kind of the takeoff point for my bags. And I am also very inspired by Nordic design and Japanese handcraft and the importance that is placed on those. So that's why, to me, I look at this as not a sewing business, but a handcraft business, and do very small batches, like 12. And as we were formulating our business, I was also volunteering at ASI, and I even had ASI staff participate in my first feedback group for my first bag. So ASI has a very deep place in my heart, and the staff has been very good to me, as has everybody that surrounds the institution. It's a very special place. And in regard to play, Kurt and I believe that fun should be part of our everyday. And of course, as avid cyclists, we believe that should definitely include cycling, and that cycling should be part of your lifestyle. You don't have to have a cycling lifestyle, if that makes sense. So I'm going to share my screen now if technology works on my favor, and give you an idea of what we make. see here. Okay, great. So this is our current assortment of bags, and us this year in front of the Mass Dollar Horse and last year at Julmarknad, which was our first Julmarknad. This is the social. It's a pannier bag, and it was our very first bag that started it all. I made this bag specifically to meet my needs. It has a lot of pockets for personal belongings and tools, a hidden pocket for your bike lock, and a key lanyard to keep your keys on. Then with the social, we were frequently asked if it held a
I think we froze a bit. Deanne, can you hear us?
Looks like we might have lost Deanne for a minute. So Deanne, maybe we'll come back to you later if possible. And we can move right ahead.
We'll come back. We have Ilrid of Ilrid Vikings with handcrafted Tomta Vikings from repurposed fur coats and different apparel. And what's really fun, it sounds like each Tomta Viking has its own name and story. So Ilrid, you want to share a bit with us?
I sure do. Hello, everybody. I am Ilrid. I started a business 2016, and I love to play every day and create new personalities, like the one up in front here. This is Rolf. My background a little bit, I grew up in my spending time with my grandmother, who was just my soul sister, Inga Britta, and my grandfather, Lars Gunnar, in the summers for about 6 weeks. And in 2016, I lost my grandmother, and I just, out of the love for them, I wanted to create all the feelings I had about Sweden and growing up and honoring my ancestors and my just family members in general. So I started with a fur coat of hers that I turned into a vest, and I had the arms and the bottom part I just cut up, and I started making ornaments, hanging ornaments. And the first one was Inga Britta and Lars Gunnar, and then their fun friend Ragnar Rolf. And it just took off, and people had asked me to make freestanding ones and large ones and design their fireplaces, and they would represent different family members and in their house, and it just grew. So all of them are named, and every year the personalities change, and they have a little fun story attached. Like, for instance, let's see, Lillemore here, her little story, a Scandinavian name meaning little mother. Lillemore shares cheerful optimism with those around her. She exudes charisma, which explains her attraction to bright and colorful surroundings. There she is. And let's see, this is a fun big one. They're all sizes. So this one, as you can see, is a little over 2 feet. His name is Rasmus. Little story, Rasmus, nicknamed Raz, means beloved and desire. He is a spirit of the sea, somewhat of a trickster. Rasmus is equally good-natured and kind-hearted. And they have their names right back there. So every year I try to add, again, all different sizes. People donate fur, and I love to make things of it. I think this was an arm of a fur coat. That'll be some really juicy mustaches or pigtails. A new item this year, which was several people had asked last year for this item, repurposed mink coats turned into fur cuff bracelets. And I have them in silver plate, like that, and gray, and a polished brass, you can see, polished brass plate, so you have the gold tone. So yes, I like I said, I play every day. I do a little bit throughout the entire year. So a whole clan is amassed by the time the holidays come around.
That's great. And great to see reuse of material and then the creativity to give birth to new little characters. Thank you so much. Next up, we have Michelle of Loon Studios with heirloom goods for children and their homes.
Hi,
Michelle?
guys. Hi. I am upstairs in my studio, which is a room upstairs in our old farmhouse. Yeah, this is where all of my children were here right before we started. They were all embroidering. You know, my sons actually decided that they wanted to, my 12-year-old and my 5-year-old sons, I have 4 children and 1 exchange student who shares this space. But they were all gathered around my feet embroidering by themselves because they wanted to, which is really fun. And I think it goes along with, you know, what we're talking about, playing every day. And it's been really important and wonderful to see that that our home has been just really full of a lot of supplies and creative things for the children to be able to do. Family is really important to me. And so originally I was a potter. That's what I went to school for. Photography and ceramics is what my thesis was. And so I threw for a while, did pottery, throwing pottery for a while. And then we moved and I took a break to have all those babies. And then a couple years, so then during that time when I couldn't throw, I started illustrating and screen printing a lot. I first learned silk screening when I studied abroad in Italy for a while. So I started illustrating apparel because I couldn't find things that I liked in the store. And so these are a few different options for clothing for children. And then I've illustrated some books and things like that. And then also illustrating some toys for kids. Although now my children aren't babies anymore, which is kind of sad. So here's like some different toys. And so it's really important to me for our, you know, for our business that we make things well, simply, like simple things done really well. It's important that that we make things that last. Yeah, things that will last and stand the test of time. I make these adventure bags that actually my children's embroidery things. My 12-year-old, he had one of the original ones, you know, like a decade ago. And he's still using it. My 12-year-old boy put his embroidery things in there. And he's like, he has knives and does all sorts of things in the woods, but he also he'll put his knitting or his embroidery things in there. And yes. We get leather from our local friends, and we try to source as many of our supplies from the US as possible. So the rope is from the US, you know, the leather, and then I dip these in beeswax. Someday we want to have bees on our farm, but not yet. But anyway, I dip it in local beeswax that I clean myself and heat it on and stuff. So yeah, something simple made really well that I steal and use as purses myself.
It seems like the perfect size and material for kids to take on adventures and fill with all their treasures that they might find at home or out in the woods.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I started throwing again now that we moved into our home. And then so talking about play, here's like a little duck on a mug, and so this has been really nice to start to throw again. So yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much, Michelle. Next up, we have Julia of the Sewing Suite with handmade customizable dog apparel from pajamas to bandanas. And I see you have Luna with you.
Yes, this is my little assistant. Not always very helpful, but you know. Yeah, so I grew up in Sweden. I've lived in the US for 5 years, going on 6, hence the sewing suite. And I was super excited this year to be part of Julmarknad, as I always go to get my little Swedish fix. But you know, virtual is just how this year is going. So we're just rolling with it. Yeah. I do all kinds of custom work for doggies, and it started with this little critter named Luna. She is a Boston Terrier Whippet mix. So as you can see, her body shape is just like maybe not always the most easy to find stuff for. So I just started making clothes because she gets very, very cold. And we live in Minnesota, and I think that there's a lot of dogs that are just not well suited for the Minnesota weather. They can't all be huskies, and this little girl has barely any fur on her little tummy. So yeah, I just started making clothes that fit her, and so that we could go on a bit longer walks and plays in the park. And that's kind of how it all started. When we went to the parks, people would come up to me and ask, where did you find those? And I was just like, well, I made them. So I started getting a lot of requests for orders for dogs of all sizes. I've done anything from Yorkshire Terrier to Great Danes. A lot of Great Danes, actually. They get cold too. They don't have a lot of fur.
Looks like a good variety of fashions for the dogs. Do you have a particular favorite doggy fashion?
Well, my current favorite is the pom-pom snoods that I make because they're just playful and silly. And my husband here is going to show our holiday card this year is featuring Kiki and Luna in their matching sweaters with poms.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, if you have 2 dogs, they have to match. And I'll show you a little variation of things that I have. I have coats that don't have the legs, so they're a little bit easier to find a fit. And they look like this and has a little Velcro strap underneath, and then they just go kind of on top. I have sweaters that have the front legs, but not the back legs. Look like that. Ooh. And of course, pajamas. This is the tiniest one I have right now in my Etsy shop. And it's for like Yorkies or Chihuahuas, and they are always so fun to make because I'm just like, this is ridiculously small. It's hilarious for some reason. And I also do little on the collar bandanas. They just slide onto the collar so that they fit nicely just hanging off like that. That is obviously not the size for this guy, but right now I have a ton of different patterns from holiday Star Wars to super Scandinavian with tomte and glögg and all those good stuff that I know a lot of you are interested in as well. So, and I said, I do all kinds of sizes. This is pajama and coat in a bigger size. But this is not even as big as it goes. Like I said, I've done a lot of Great Dane orders. And one day I was doing a custom order for a Great Dane. And as I was sewing the sleeve, I'm like, how big is this? So I tried to put in my arm, and it was like longer than my own arm. So that's how big some dogs are.
Thank you for sharing. Those are great. The material as well, the patterns, lots of fun there. Thank you so much. And last but not least, we have Tia, the one-woman show behind the handmade, playful yet timeless jewelry of Silver Cocoon. And we had the privilege of working with Tia this year on the Finland installation out in the courtyard, which you can still see if you peek through the fence at ASI. But Tia, I'll hand it to you.
Thank you. This has been great listening to everybody's stories. Silver Cocoon started in 2001, so it's almost 20 years ago that we started with a couple art sales. I guess you would call them pop-up. You know, that wasn't a term back then, but we had a pop-up sale, a couple sales in an Airstream camper. And, you know, it has evolved to essentially be an umbrella for all of the creative work that my husband and I do independently and together. So we have done residential design, and I started making laser cut jewelry in 2007. So I've been making the jewelry line for 13 years. And, you know, my journey in terms of playing and is, you know, really learning what it means to be multidisciplinary and cross-disciplinary. And I would say in the last 3 to 5 years, I've really started to practice that idea. I'm learning how to embody that idea, where I can do this structure in the courtyard at ASI, or outdoor sculptures that have a lot of very deep personal meaning to me, installations in galleries and daily drawing practices. And, you know, you can see behind me all of the different kind of sculptural playing with different materials. And then also going back to the jewelry. So where I find myself this year in 2020 with the pandemic and with the social uprising and all of the things that have happened and that we have endured this year, I actually spent, you know, 6 to 9 months not really thinking at all about jewelry, not thinking or creating or making anything new since April. And you know, I've had a lot of critical thoughts about my consumable work and its place in the world. And what has happened is that a lot of that creative energy from my sculpture work has now infused the jewelry design. And what I have done in the last few weeks is I've re-looked at old materials. There are some designs that I created last year or within the last couple of years that I've had stock parts of, and I pulled them together and I started playing around with them. And I've come up with 4 different designs that are probably better than the original, which is it's I think a testament to the power of creativity and the power of giving yourself space as a creative person to step away and to get perspective and to sometimes even be critical and judgmental of what you're doing, and then come back at it with fresh energy. So I have I'll share just one of them here. This is the earring that I am most excited about, and it comes in a lot of different colors. It's super playful. I'm calling them the squid. So, you know, this green part is the original part for the Hannah earring, which I released a couple years ago. And then these fringes are part of the fringe earring. And so putting them together, I'm seeing the world anew. And I think that the color combinations are not something necessarily new, but they feel new right now. And I think it is just a very small glimmer of hope and space, and trying to carve out just a little bit of joy right now at a time when there's so many heavy things to be holding. And I think the lesson is that we need to know how to hold them both together, to honor and hold space for all of the people who are struggling right now, and also give ourselves just a little bit of space for hope and joy. Sorry, it's such an emotional time. I'm an emotional person.
No, thank you so much, Tia. It's so wonderful to watch your process and how you speak about your process, both as a fine artist and then working with jewelry. And it's true. We all need something to help put a smile on our faces at times in this year. And I think the way you've tapped into that through wearable art is wonderful. So thank you so much for sharing and giving us a peek inside your studio. And before we close up, Deanne, sorry we lost you during your presentation, but it was
I had
so
a
great.
major virtual moment. It
Oh.
was like, you can't get that anywhere else. So sorry
No.
about that. I'll probably just re-record my presentation. If anybody wants to watch it on my Instagram, then I'll put a link up later on.
Yeah, and your Instagram has some great stories about the adventures that these different things go on.
Yeah, we've been at the Swedish Institute right before you all had to shut down for a month, and it wasn't planned that way, but we were lucky to be there, and so we did a little story all week out in the Nordic Story Trail. So you can check that out on Instagram too.
Love it. Thank you, Deanne. Thank you so much to everyone. Just a reminder for our viewers that you can still access all these artists' pages via the ASI website, asimn.org. A big thank you to the artists, but also everyone that's tuned in for your continual support of ASI and all that we do. And we will let you enjoy this sunny day and get on with some online shopping. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thanks so much, everyone. And feel free to tune in for our two other panels today at 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock, Wear Every Day and Display Every Day. So we're excited to have more artists joining us then. And thanks to all of the Julmarknad artists. We really miss having you with us in person this year, but it was really fun to get a peek into your spaces. So take care, everybody.